see the emptiness where she should be.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry.
I'm tired. I'm at the end of my rope.
In September 2018, Todd Grzinski, who had a history of DUI offenses, found himself in a terrible crash in Lakewood. This tragic incident took the life of 25-year-old Angela Wimmer, a young woman with her whole life ahead. Todd faced the consequences as he was charged in court. As the victims of the accident shared their heart-wrenching stories, the courtroom filled with tense emotions.
It took a lot for me to be able to even drive again.
Yet Todd's friends and family spoke up, emphasizing that he wasn't entirely a monster. They claimed he felt genuine remorse and wished he could change places with the victims.
I've only known him to be caring and kind and helpful.
He has expressed his complete contempt for himself. He has stated how much he regrets the accident and would do anything to be able to change places with the victim.
When Todd had the chance to address the court, he expressed sincere regret and apologized to Angela's family.
I am so remorseful and so sorry that I did what I did. A few things I want to address real quick before I get into that. The victim has passed away because of my ignorance, and I am so truly sorry to the family, to everybody else affected, to Miss Martinez, and I am so sorry for how much I'm hurting you, and I hope you heal fast. We'll never get behind a wheel again. Call an Uber, call a taxi, or better yet, give up drinking.
However, his 6 previous DUI convictions worked against him, leading the judge to hand down the maximum punishment, life in prison without parole. Todd's reaction to the sentence left everyone shocked. McEnroe and his girlfriend, Michelle Anderson, were together in a terrible event. They hurt Michelle's parents and waited for her brother to come. They hurt his family. They did this because Michelle believed her brother owed her money. In the courtroom, McEnroe's actions were bad. He didn't speak for over 2 months. The lawyers wanted to give them a very strong punishment, but McEnroe finally talked. He asked for a less strong punishment. He said he tried to stop the bad thing, but he couldn't leave.
What did you do to try to stop this, Joe?
I can't even say now. I tried everything that I could.
Well, why not just walk out the door and leave?
I couldn't do that.
In the court, he talked about the bad things he did without showing any feelings, but he did cry when he told about cleaning up. He said sorry, but then talked without caring that no one suffered.
Then she wasn't moving anymore, and so I went over by where she was, and I told her that I was sorry, and I shot her in the head.
See the emptiness where she should be.
At least nobody suffered. The way that it is, at least nobody suffered.
In the end, they got a very strong punishment, 6 life terms in prison. In a Kentucky courtroom, Robbins is sentenced after a 3-day trial. He's guilty of hurting someone badly and taking them away. The judge lists his crimes, but Robbins acts rudely, spitting at a lawyer.
The defendant is guilty of 1, kidnapping with serious physical injury, 2, robbery in the 1st degree, assault in the 2nd degree, unlawful imprisonment, wanton endangerment 1st degree, and being a persistent felony offender 1st degree.
Your Honor, the Commonwealth would request that the court give notice to the defendant not to communicate with the Commonwealth.
Yeah. Hey, now none of that. Hey, none of that. Now just calm down.
Yeah, you calm down.
You take it easy.
Stand up there on that side, please. Settle down, please.
Welcome. Dirty ass court here.
Listen, buddy, I'm too old for this.
Hey, I'm too old for this too.
They remove him and note his threat.
You shall be confined to the state penitentiary for a maximum of 25 years. And that concludes this matter before the court. Thank you.
The court has that on record. We know that that was a threat, and we will be saving that record for possible criminal charge.
He gets no extra punishment. He still has 25 years in jail. No changes are made to his sentence. In Wichita, Kansas, we're at the sentencing of Michael Gaines, who's been found guilty of hurting a police officer. The judge addresses Gaines about his actions.
You deliberately were hawking up.
I didn't hawk up no saliva, okay? That's and you're gonna believe those lies. That's what I'm talking about. I didn't hawk up no saliva. You gonna believe a lie because they wearing uniform. Either. You ain't gotta scream at me. You gonna raise your voice at me?
Oh my God.
Raise your voice at me, I raise my voice at you. You just in a row.
After a tense exchange, Michael Gaines is escorted out of the courtroom, and the judge pronounces a 13-year sentence. In a quiet town, Kishwan Bird and Michael Smathers stood by their car. Kendall, an armed security guard, suddenly started shooting. Bird got hit 4 times in the back, and sadly, he didn't make it. Smathers survived, but was left paralyzed. Kendall, who had a troubled past, faced charges of serious wrongdoing. He claimed he wasn't mentally well, but the court decided he could stand trial. In a tense courtroom, Kendall's lawyers argued for hospital care instead of prison. But things took a turn when Kendall's mental state deteriorated, and he ended up in a bad way.
And then the issue is that you want him housed where?
At the same facility he's been housed.
In order to prevent him from decompensating?
Yes, Your Honor. He eventually decompensated to the point where he was sitting in the fetal position, naked, not eating, and not interacting with any human being.
Kishwan's father couldn't hold back his anger and was escorted out of court.
Yeah, but my son is dead, man. My son is dead. He needs to go to prison. He don't need to be laying no mental hospital. He need to go to prison, man. Come on, church. He want to play crazy. He wasn't crazy when he my son, man. He wasn't crazy then, but he crazy now. All of a sudden he crazy now. You want to lay in a mental hospital? You my shit, man, for nothing. When he was trying to get away from you, you was trying to get away from you, man. And you kept him while his body was under the truck. You kept man. You kept him. And his back was turned to you, man.
Kendall, despite his arguments, received a life sentence. This is the story of Gary Ridgway. He faces charges for causing harm to many people in Washington. Gary was a person who did very bad things. He hurt many women, around 48 of them. Most of these women were in difficult situations, like being on the streets or running away from home. Gary grew up in a home where his parents argued a lot. He had his own problems too, like wetting the bed until he was 13 years old. When he was a teenager, he got into a fight and got stabbed. He wasn't very smart either, with an IQ in the low 80s. In the 1970s, there was a religious movement called the Jesus Movement, and Gary changed because of it. He became a Christian and talked a lot about his faith, but he also did bad things, like visiting women who sold their bodies. This was against what he believed in. After that, he did even worse things. He took women and did bad things to them, and then he put them in the Green River.
Marsha Chapman was on her back, and she had large boulders on her thighs, up her shoulder, but one arm was free.
Come across Opal Mills. So there's a 16-year-old girl laying on her stomach, a large bruise on her buttocks, a ligature around her neck, laying face down, and, you know, we just started doing our job.
Your statement begins as follows. I killed the 48 women listed in the state's second amended information. I killed so many women, I have a hard time keeping them straight. Is that true?
Yes.
And Mr. Ridgway, is it your desire to plead guilty to the 48 charges of aggravated in the first degree because you believe that you are guilty of each of those offenses?
Yes.
In court, the people who lost their loved ones were very angry and sad. They told Gary how much he hurt them, even though he didn't feel sorry before. He cried during the trial.
It said your memory, when it comes to all of the women you took, was gone. Our memory is not. In your words, you said that they didn't mean anything to you, but she meant everything to us.
She was a mother, she was a wife, she was a sister, and we miss her.
I wish for him to have a long, suffering, cruel death.
He's gonna go to hell, and that's where he belongs.
You've made it difficult to live up to what I believe and that is what God says to do, and that's to forgive. And he doesn't say to forgive just certain people. He says to forgive all. So you are forgiven, sir.
Now, Gary Ridgway is in prison for the rest of his life in Washington. Meet Luis, a young man facing charges for a terrible accident that happened back in 2012. He was just 24 years old at the time. Luis was driving after taking some strong medicines and smoking marijuana. These bad choices led to a big crash on the road, hurting several people and taking the lives of two young folks, Meredith and Lane. Meredith had big dreams of going to Princeton University, but those dreams were broken because of Luis's careless actions.
This accident took from me all of the milestones, her college graduation, her first position in a career, any marriage or children.
During the trial, emotions were running high. Meredith's family was heartbroken, and Luis finally stood up and apologized for what happened.
Not a day goes by that I don't suffer from the guilt. It is such a horrible situation, and there's nothing I can do to fix it or make it right. I know that I'm going to be sentenced to a lengthy prison sentence. I accept that, just as I've accepted the responsibility for my actions.
We understand that people make bad decisions, and we get it. And he'll forever be in our prayers, his family. And but by the same token, there has to be a sentence. There has to be a punishment.
The judge decided to send Luis to prison for 16 years, with extra probation time and other penalties. This sad case reminds us of the dangers of driving under the influence. This is Jesse Smollett, who has been sent to jail for 5 months. A judge found him guilty of making up a story about a mean and hurtful attack. In the courtroom, Jesse stood up with his lawyers and police officers around him. He said he didn't do anything wrong, but he didn't show any feelings.
I am not. I am not, and I am innocent. I could have said that I was guilty.
His family and other people in the courtroom were surprised by the judge's decision. The judge, named James Lynn, said Jesse will go to jail for 150 days in Cook County, and he has to pay a big fine too.
You will pay restitution to the City of Chicago in the amount of $120,106. You are fined $25,000, which is the maximum fine, and you will spend the first 150 days of your sentence in the Cook County Jail, and that will start today, right here, right now.
The judge thought Jesse planned this bad thing and hurt the feelings of real victims. He called Jesse a fake and a liar.
You are now a permanently convicted felon. Your family who loves you and supports you, I don't even want to use the word forgive, because forgiveness isn't even necessary. They're with you so much, they're so tight-knit, but you have to live with the fact that you really put them through a ringer. You've embarrassed your valuable friends in high places, the elected public officials, people in the media. You've embarrassed them. You have to live with that. I don't know if those relationships can be repaired. You've become toxic in your own workplace. Your career future is uncertain at very best. It was really on a rocket ship to success, and now you've turned yourself into riches to rags.
During the trial, two brothers told everyone that Jesse gave them money to make up the attack. They said he told them to be mean and say bad things during the fake attack. In California, Bonnie Duarte, 29 years old, faced a grave situation. She drove her Hyundai Sonata, crashing into a stationary Toyota Corolla during spring break. The tragic collision near the coast claimed 3 young lives: Dylan Mack, 18, Brooke Hawley, 17, and AJ Rossi, 17. Another victim, Alexis Varga, was severely hurt. In court, emotions ran high as victims' families shared their pain.
It doesn't matter. My daughter can't do anything. My daughter horrifically.
There isn't anything that will ever fill this empty hole in my soul. I wish this really was just a nightmare, because then we could all just wake up.
The decision that Betty Duarte made that night to drink and get into a vehicle and drive changed my family's world. She had no regard for human life or regard for the effects it could have on others. She knew about Uber and Lyft, but she chose to drive twice that night.
Bonnie, deeply remorseful, admitted her wrongdoing and took full responsibility.
At this point, I don't even know who's going to raise my children, or if I'm ever going to be able to ever hug them again or comfort them. No one is to blame but me. I take responsibility. I wasn't in the right state of mind mentally and emotionally. I just want to say that I'm truly sorry, and maybe one day you will forgive me.
After a lengthy legal battle, she was found guilty on all charges. The judge sent a stern message, sentencing Bonnie to 45 years to life in prison for the 3 counts of crime. Additionally, she received a 6-year sentence for causing injury while driving under the influence. Spencer Boston finds himself in a tricky situation. He sneaked something into the courtroom, which was a big no-no. But his reasons were quite different. Spencer stands before Judge Haywood Berry, facing minor charges for speeding. Cops had stopped him and found a tiny bit of marijuana in his car. Boston, dressed in a colorful tie-dye shirt, wants to defend himself. He's not happy with the law.
Come on down, Mr. Boston. Spoke to Mr. Boston. He said he wants to represent himself in this case.
I think it's very unfair, the marijuana law here. I think we the people deserve better because marijuana is a very harmless drug, and it's been around for ages, since the 80s and 90s.
I've heard that baloney all my life, so don't go any further on that. But if you want a trial, we can give you a trial.
He boldly reaches into his jacket pocket. Surprisingly, no one notices as he pulls out a joint and puts it in his mouth.
Hey, we the people deserve better.
His audacity earns him extra charges: disorderly conduct, contempt of court, and another for marijuana possession. He later reveals his secret. He taped it to his chest.
I ended up taping it to my actual chest.
Spencer spent 10 days in court for disrespecting the judge, eventually released on bail. This is the story of TJ Lane, a person without remorse. He was found guilty of a terrible act in 2012. It happened at Chardon High School in Ohio, where 6 students were hurt and 3 lives were taken away. The one behind these awful acts was Thomas TJ Lane, a 17-year-old who used to go to the same school. He was caught by the police near his car. Later, they charged him as an adult. He admitted guilt and got 3 life terms in prison.
All right, please. That's all your client has to say, Mr. Creed.
I hate you for the pain you have caused, Nick. You chased him down the hall and fired the last that paralyzed him.
Things I was looking forward to, I will never get to see. My baby brother graduate high school, go to college, graduate college, get married, have children. I will never be an aunt, and my children will never know their uncle.
He was a mere baby, my baby. That could have never been a fraction of the man Danny was going to be. He doesn't deserve to breathe the air that I breathe.
That child stole my life, and he should never be able to do this to anyone ever again.
TJ didn't show any remorse. Even in prison, he tried to escape with another inmate, but the police quickly caught him.
Scaled our perimeter fence, and again, this is an ongoing investigation.
Which inmate? I believe it's a young one. TJ Lane. He's in custody.
The facts are, I'm happy to announce that we have Mr. Lane back in our custody.
Samantha Davis, 32 years old, found herself in a tragic incident in 2016. She was driving her truck on a highway in Blue Ash when she lost control. Her truck hit a barrier and flipped onto a car below, taking the lives of 2 innocent individuals. Samantha admitted to being under the influence of drugs at the time. She faced charges and apologized tearfully in court.
I want to apologize to both your family and mine for the ripple effect this has caused. I can't pretend to know the pain or hardships you have all endured these last 3 years. Although I may have my own, my mind is always flashing back to you and reminding myself that regardless how bad I might think I have it, you guys definitely have it worse.
The victim's family forgave her, but justice had to be served. In 2019, she was sentenced to 8 years in prison, but in 2021, her convictions were overturned.
A child in any case is painful. My children have lost both their mother and their sister, and every day it is difficult. I live with the knowledge that I will not get to hold her or to hug her or to hear her say to me, "Hey, Dad," when she greeted me. I want Ms. Davis to know I do not hate her. I have forgiven her. I think justice, however, needs to be served.
I've gone through many emotions in regards to Samantha Davis. I have compassion for her children and family, and I would never wish on anyone what she's going through. I also feel that there needs to be consequences for what her actions have caused.
She accepted a plea agreement, receiving a 5-year, 4-month sentence with credit for time served. Stephanie Rybkowski, a 42-year-old woman, stands in Berea Municipal Court in Ohio. She got caught shoplifting at Walmart, and today she's convicted of theft. She hopes Judge Mark Comstock won't send her to jail. Her attorney wants a suspended sentence. But when the judge announces a 180-day jail term, Stephanie's heart sinks.
Mr. Rybkowski, am I saying that correctly?
Yes, you are. Yes.
First of all, $150 fine plus cost, but that's suspended. And then 180 days in jail. I'll credit 1 day served. However, I start that today.
Is there a way that I can not start jail today? I mean, because I've got a daughter, we've got a graduation party going on at home.
I understand that. I understand that. And we're going to stick with the recommendation at this point. So, again, you can have a seat.
Can I phone home?
Absolutely. You'll be able to use your phone.
She pleads for reconsideration. As she heads for the exit, bailiff Matthew Bedford notices. They talk in the hallway, and Stephanie stalls by checking her phone. Then, she seizes a chance, slipping past the bailiff and escaping down 2 flights of stairs. She reaches her car, knocks the bailiff over, and speeds away. Fortunately, the bailiff's injuries are minor. It takes 11 days to catch Stephanie, who now faces new charges. In San Diego, California, back in 2018, Jeffrey Levi faced serious charges. Not once, but twice before. A terribly drunk Levi made a terrible choice. He got behind the wheel of his fast car, zooming over 100 miles per hour on the road, risking lives. His car smashed into another, carrying Felix and Giovanna Dominguez. The crash was so strong, it stopped their car, and a police officer's SUV then hit them. Tragically, the car caught fire, and Felix and Jesus Dominguez lost their lives. Levi's poor choices continued, with a previous DUI conviction from 2007.
I wish and pray that I could do or say something to change what's happened, but I can't. And I have to live with that forever. I made very serious mistakes with detrimental consequences. I relapsed. I think of Jesus, Isaac, Giovanna, and their friends and family every day. I wish and pray that I could do or say something to change what's happened, but I can't. And I have to live with that forever.
I want to remind you, Mr. Levi, because I know that you're going to be living with this for the rest of your life, that you these 2 young people and burn them to you permanently maimed another young woman and injured an officer. But by my count, you made 4 fatal decisions on that night.
He showed remorse in court, but received a long prison sentence, and the victims' families sued him in the city. This is Trey Alexander Relford. He faced charges related to a tragic incident in Lexington, Kentucky. Salahuddin Jit Mood, a pizza delivery person, was lured into an apartment complex by Relford and his group. They robbed him, and a terrible event followed. During the court proceedings, Abdul Munim Sambajid Mood, Salahuddin's father, surprised everyone by forgiving Relford. He spoke of forgiveness being a noble act in Islam. Salahuddin's mother supported this gesture.
I feel so sad for you that you have to be in this situation. I wish I could help you as I help my son to be a good citizen. If Salahuddin were to be here, if he alive, he would forgive you. That's the way he was. That's the way he is. I forgive you on behalf of Salahuddin and his mother.
Despite this forgiveness, Relford received a lengthy prison sentence of 31 years for his involvement in the incident. Salahuddin's forgiveness was unexpected, but rooted in his religious beliefs.
I'm sorry about what happened that day. But I do applaud you, because it takes a powerful man to know that somebody has hurt them and do what you, get up there and say what you just said. I have a child. This shit is for. And I can imagine the hurt, the pain from what you learned.
Just tell them that he did. Well, I thank you for your forgiveness.
I blame the devil, who misguiding you and misleading you to do such a horrible crime. No, I don't blame you. I'm not angry at you.
I am deeply sorry for your loss. And I thank you so much for comforting me and my family, because I was shocked to hear your forgiveness.
Relford's mother also expressed remorse and gratitude, and it became a story of redemption and forgiveness. In the tale of Tyrell Webster, a man now faces grave charges. It all occurred in Ohio back in April 2012. Tyrell engaged in a fierce argument with Grover Cleveland Watson Jr. Things took a terrible turn when Tyrell's anger flared. The dispute became heated at a home on Osage Avenue. Tyrell, no stranger to wrongdoing, had a notorious sibling named Lonnie Webster, a criminal serving a long sentence. Although Tyrell's actions were dreadful, his courtroom behavior was disgraceful. During sentencing, Watson's sister, Carolyn O'Brien, recounted how her brother met his demise on his own birthday.
And he was taken from us on my brother's birthday, which hurts very, very.
She initially forgave Tyrell, believing he didn't understand the consequences. But when Tyrell laughed, O'Brien gave a powerful response. She warned him that laughter would fade once he's locked away for life.
Mouth just to ask God to forgive you, because you didn't know what you were doing. Just so you know, he's laughing right now. I really don't care about that, because you know what, you laughing at it, but the moment they get you behind those prison walls for the rest of your life, you will be somebody's girlfriend, and that smile will no longer be on your face. It will be tears.
Do that matter?
Yes, it does.
Tyrell received a harsh sentence of 18 years to life in prison after a swift, guilty verdict. In 2019, police joined forces with the state attorney's office to investigate social media and YouTube. Their focus was on videos showing convicted felons flaunting weapons. Tyler Jackson, a Florida artist, got into trouble at age 23. He received a 10-year sentence for firearm possession. His real name is Tyler Jackson, and his case drew national attention for using his music videos as evidence.
Here, he was absolutely confident that this is a real firearm and meets the definition of Florida statutes. And it's because not only of the quality of the video, it's because of this specific type of firearm.
During the sentencing, the judge expressed disapproval, stating the videos weren't art, but harmful. Jackson, in his defense, claimed to be an entertainer, not a criminal.
And Mr. Jackson, I watched the music videos, and I have to say that I'm appalled at the content of them, at the direction. But one thing that really sticks out is Mr. Jackson is a talented young man that could do anything he wanted with his life if he made the right choices.
I want to express that I am not the person that the state is trying to make me out to be by any means. I am not a violent person. I don't have any violent charges or a violent criminal background. I'm not no gang member, nor have I ever been a gang member or been guilty by association to any gang. I have no criminal history as an adult, and I do my best not to have any encounters with the law enforcement. I'm an inspiring artist, and I am trying to make a career out of what I love and have a passion for doing, which is music. Music is my craft, and how I tend to make my livelihood and should not be taken literally. I am merely an entertainer which gives my fans what they want to see and hear. The state is prosecuting my music videos and not who I am as a person.
After much debate, he received a 10-year sentence and 5 years of probation, plus some waived fees.
Making the decision that you would be rather associated with a criminal gang and make videos that promote or in furtherance of the criminal gang. So I find that you are a danger to the community. And I find that the only way to protect the community from you is to put you in prison. But I'm not going to put you in prison for 20 years. I'm going to put you in prison for 10. So I'm going to adjudicate you guilty, sentence you to 10 years in the Florida Department of Corrections, to be followed by 5 years of probation. And during that period of probation, you'll not associate with any criminal gang members. And you are going to complete the Authentic Manhood program. I'll give you credit for 739 days. And court cost in the amount of, tell you what, I'm going to waive your court costs.
Ashford Thompson appears in the courtroom. Tears stream down his face as he shares his frustration with the legal process. Thompson was charged with harming 2 Twinsburg police officers in July 2008. In court, Officer McTeer Ian's widow, Holly, listens as Thompson complains about jail life. He's upset about not getting his mail and constant harassment.
But I wasn't the only one in this situation. I still don't have copies of the things that I've asked for. I don't have a copy of anything. I don't even know what the prosecutor's going to use against me.
Well, probably your statements, Mr. Thompson.
How can these people just do anything they want? They don't even follow their command the right way. I've been harassed for I don't know how long. I'm trying to hold it in just to get this over with.
Thompson's attorney, Carrie O'Brien, plans to file many more motions. The judge grants 1 more week for preparation.
Your Honor, just execute me then, because I can't get any kind of justice. I'm tired. I'm at the end of my rope.
Well,
what can I do?
Facing the death penalty, Thompson pleads with the judge, worried about receiving a fair trial. Michelle Blair, a mother of 4 from Detroit, Michigan, faced grave charges that shook the nation. In a chilling and disturbing case, she committed a heinous act against her own family. Here's the harrowing tale. Michelle lived in Detroit, Michigan with her 4 kids. Tragically, she caused great harm to 2 of them, and her actions were unspeakable. She kept their lifeless bodies in a freezer for nearly 3 years. The dreadful discovery took place when Michelle was forced to leave her home due to unpaid rent. During this eviction, authorities stumbled upon a horrifying scene in her living room, a freezer containing the remains of Stephen and Stoney. It was a grim realization that they had been deceased for an extended period. Following her arrest and trial, Michelle confessed to the terrible crimes against her family. She claimed that she did this because of her youngest son, Matthew, but these allegations remained unproven. Michelle's confession unveiled a deeply disturbing sequence of events. In August 2012, she said she found her son Matthew engaging in inappropriate activities with dolls and learned of his abuse by his older brother, Stephen. In a fit of rage, Michelle physically assaulted Stephen, causing him immense suffering. Tragically, Stephen passed away due to this abuse 9 months later. Even more heart-wrenching, in May 2013, Michelle discovered that her daughter, Stoney, had suffered similarly to Matthew. In response, she subjected Stoney to starvation and brutal beatings until her untimely demise. Rather than seeking help or turning herself in, Michelle concealed Stoney's body by placing it in a plastic bag and storing it alongside Stephen's in the freezer. Throughout the trial, Michelle displayed no remorse for her actions, insisting she believed she was doing the right thing.
To my understanding, to get a trial is to get to the truth, right? I'm already saying that I did it. I'm freely giving myself and accepting life in prison. my son is worth that to me. So what I don't understand is, from what I heard today, why the prosecutors are dragging their feet. If I'm already giving myself to you like, hey, I did this, what's the problem? You get what I'm saying? I'm not gonna come back like, oh, I didn't understand my rights. I'm not a coward.
In June 2015, she pleaded guilty to 2 counts of first-degree premeditated harm and received a life sentence.
You take responsibility of it. You're therefore sentenced to the Michigan Department of Corrections for the rest of your life without the possibility of parole, meaning, of course, that you will never get out.
Michelle is currently serving her sentence at the Huron Valley Correctional Facility in Ypsilanti, Michigan. She will never have the chance for parole, meaning she will spend the rest of her life behind bars. In Tampa, Florida, there's a tale about Humberto Delgado Jr. He's an ex-police officer struggling with knee pain. One rainy day, pushing his cart of belongings, fate leads him to meet Officer Michael Roberts. Suspicion brews as Roberts checks Delgado's IDs. A tense moment unfolds when Roberts investigates the backpack. Fearing discovery, Delgado runs. A fierce fight erupts, but tragically, Delgado's fear drives him to use his hidden weapon, ending Roberts' life.
He wasn't thinking clearly. He wasn't able to make judgments. He wasn't able to weigh the good and the bad, the positive and the negative.
In court, emotions run high. Delgado's state of mind is questioned. Officer Roberts' wife pleads for justice.
But mostly, I want to speak to you. You have remained silent, and you are not remorseful. I hope you receive the penalty, and so does Mike. Just an inmate number, but to many of us, you will just be known as cop killer.
After a lengthy deliberation, the jury pronounces Delgado guilty.
For the murder of Corporal Michael Roberts, this court sentences you to be put to death in the manner prescribed by law.
He faces the death penalty, but later receives life imprisonment upon appeal. Olivia Carolee Colbreth, just 26 years old, faced charges in Los Angeles, California for driving under the influence. She had been drinking and driving shortly after becoming a new mother. On a February morning in 2014, she recklessly sped at 100 miles per hour against oncoming traffic, leading to a devastating collision with another car. Tragically, 4 people from 3 generations of the same family lost their lives in that crash. Following the horrific incident, Colbreth's blood alcohol level was found to be nearly twice the legal limit.
No words can convey how my heart feels. Saw the window shattered with my grandmother's wheelchair in the back. Felt like my heart was ripped out of my chest and burned.
When she's coming home, he jumps up on the little shelf and tries to move the glass.
It was revealed that she had a previous DUI arrest with warnings about the dangers of such behavior. Now, her young son, only 5 years old, knows his mother as someone behind bars. In a courtroom statement, Colbreth expressed deep regret and self-punishment.
No words can convey how my heart feels. I was wrong, I was so wrong.
She eventually pleaded no contest to 6 counts of second-degree crime and was sentenced to 30 years to life in prison, offering some closure to the grieving families affected by the tragedy. This is the tale of Caleb Sharp, a 15-year-old boy known for his YouTube channel as Mungo Walker. Caleb appeared quiet and spoke softly. His videos contained content that some found controversial. One day at Freeman High School in Spokane, Washington, things took a terrible turn. Caleb, a student there, brought a bag filled with dangerous items. He attempted to use one of these items, but it didn't work. Another student, Sam Strawn, showed great bravery by intervening, but sadly, he suffered a grave outcome. Caleb's actions injured 3 more students before a janitor stepped in to stop him. Later, it was revealed that Caleb was grappling with emotional and mental challenges. His parents mentioned he had been struggling at home as well.
Bodies in their minds that I can never erase or take back. And most of all, I am sorry to Amy and Emily for taking Sam from them.
In its scope, that a child in this day and age who was really crying out for help was allowed to carry out such a heinous crime when the writing was pretty much on the wall for everyone to see, but no one seriously looked. As counsel correctly pointed out, lots of kids have an IEP. Lots of kids are depressed and confused at what is already likely a turbulent time in their lives. Lots of kids have ADHD, but they don't go shoot up a school.
In their bodies and their minds that I can never erase or take back. And most of all, I am sorry to Amy and Emily for taking Sam from them.
After a lengthy legal process, Caleb received a lengthy prison sentence, marking a sad conclusion to a young life with potential. This story underscores the importance of supporting the emotional well-being of young people who may be facing difficulties in their lives. There was a man named Dante Rashawn Morris. Born on August 24, 1985 in Tampa, Florida, his life was not easy. Raised by a young, sad mother, he always carried the pain of his father's unsolved tragedy, which happened when he was just a toddler. Between May 18th and June 8th, 2010, Morris went on a terrible rampage, hurting many people. He harmed Derek Anderson and Rodney Jones, who sadly lost their lives due to drug-related incidents. But the worst was yet to come. On June 29th, 2010, chaos erupted when Morris encountered police officers Jeffrey Kokob and David Curtis. He had a warrant for fraud, and when they pulled him over, things took a horrifying turn. Morris attacked both officers and fled. Morris's crimes shocked the city, and an intense search ensued. He had a long history of wrongdoing, and a massive reward was offered for his capture. Finally, on July 2nd, 2010, Morris was caught, ending his deadly spree. The trials that followed were gripping. Morris was convicted for his crimes and faced a severe sentence.
Did he tell you that the officer had gone back to run his name?
Yes.
Did he tell you that he was afraid that he had a warrant?
Yes.
That's account one for the first degree premeditated of David Curtis. The court imposes a sentence of. That's account two for the first degree premeditated Jeffrey Kokob. The court imposes a sentence of.
Through it all, Morris showed no emotion as his fate was sealed. His actions had left a lasting scar on the community, but justice had been served. There was a person named Shorty. The real name was Therese Powell. Therese, who hails from Jacksonville, was a rapper. A while back, Therese got into trouble for possessing something they shouldn't have. The law decided that Therese should spend 12 years away from society because of this. The whole thing happened on a summer day in 2020. Police in Jacksonville received a call about a very loud argument at a store. When they got there, they found Therese with an injury on their leg. Not far away, they also found something not allowed in Therese's possession. Near the scene, they discovered a piece of clothing that could hide someone's face. Investigation showed that Therese's evidence was on the possession item and the piece of clothing. This made the police think Therese had something to do with what happened.
What? You sure?
Mm-hmm. There's video all through there.
Well, I didn't tell you about that.
What's your rap name?
K Shorty.
K Shorty. I find you on YouTube.
Probably not no major videos, but I just like a lot of Instagram videos.
Instagram videos, you show up on like World Star.
Later, a jury said Therese was guilty. Before getting the 12-year sentence, Therese told the judge that growing up in a tough place had influenced their actions. They mentioned witnessing tough situations, even losing a loved one to it.
Question was it true that they call you Cinema Home Salem? In the jailhouse.
I'm sorry, say what?
In the jailhouse, they call you Send 'em Home Salem.
Send 'em home Salem?
I guess.
Okay.
It's a termination as you send people home a lot. And basically, a lot of people want you as a judge for when it comes to sentencing because they feel like you're fair. And I was kind of like praying that was true. So that's why I said I was grateful to have you as a judge. I don't feel like in your heart that you would sentence me 15 years for possession of a firearm and I'm not a convicted felon. That they saw they would do something to just to harm them. And I was shot, my girlfriend was, and it was there from there.
All right, Mr. Poe, you were found guilty by jury of your peers for the charge of possession of a firearm by a juvenile delinquent. You are adjudicated guilty of that charge. You're sentenced to 12 years Florida State Prison with 546 days credits. You have $518 in court costs. There is a $50 PD application lien. I will sign an order, appoint the public defender's office to represent you on appeal. if your attorney files a notice of appeal in that regard.
The judge decided on the 12-year sentence after thinking about Teresa's past and what the prosecutor said about a video Teresa made. The video seemed like proof of Teresa's involvement, they said. And so, the story of Shorty, or Teresa Powell, took a turn, and they began a long time away from society. A man committed a terrible act. He harmed 2 police officers, and now he faces serious consequences. They brought him to a courtroom where many other police officers gathered. They all wanted to understand what had happened. The judge spoke sternly to the man, declaring that he would have to spend time in a place known as prison. Tension hung heavily in the air as the room filled with the serious and concerned faces of the officers.
Second count, possession of a firearm without a firearm ID card, and all 6 counts not guilty, please be entered.
Do you understand those charges, Mr. Lopes?
Yes, sir.
Based on what I've heard today, and I think a Bridgewater evaluation form. The gentleman, Mr. Lopes, will be held without bail and held at the Denton House of Correction.
All right, please.
The man's expression was one of no remorse, and a profound silence enveloped the room. His punishment was severe because his actions had been gravely wrong. There was a man named Ashford Thompson Bennett. He found himself in a difficult situation. He was in trouble with the law in Ohio. It all happened on a dark night in Twinsburg, Ohio, back in 2008. There was a police officer named Josh McTarian. He was a dedicated member of the police force. Tragically, his life took a terrible turn during a routine traffic stop. It was really late, around 2 a.m., when Officer McTarian pulled over a car on Glenwood Drive. The car belonged to a young man named Thompson, who was just 23 years old. Things got chaotic in a hurry. Shots were fired, and Officer McTarian was hurt badly. Sadly, he didn't make it. Thompson was arrested and faced a trial.
In his statement and through his defense.
I didn't write anything down here because I don't really think that I can write my life down.
The jury didn't hold back. They recommended a severe punishment. Thompson's fate was decided by the court, and he received a death sentence. It was a heartbreaking moment for everyone involved, especially Officer McTarian's family.
We, the jury, being duly impaneled and sworn, find the defendant, Ashford L. Thompson, guilty beyond a reasonable doubt of the offense of aggravated murder as charged in the indictment.
God has given me many gifts. One was my youngest son, Josh. The shot that took his life also took mine. My heart bleeds sorrow for grief, sadness, agony. You took my son's future. You took my future.
I just want to say I'm sorry. I can't apologize enough. See me with a straight face is not because I just have no feeling or I just hate people. I'm just some kind of cold-blooded.
Thompson now sits on death row, hoping for a different outcome, but his appeal was denied by the Ohio Supreme Court, and his reaction to this news was quite dramatic. Eric Windhurst, a man from New Hampshire, faced charges that changed his life forever. In 1985, he made a bad choice. Melanie Paquette, scared and worried, told him about the harm her mom's ex-husband, Daniel Paquette, caused her. Filled with fear for Melanie, Eric decided to confront Daniel with a weapon. Sadly, things went wrong, and Daniel was hurt. For 20 years, the secret was kept. But then, Melanie told the truth to the police. In court, Eric felt deep shame and regret. He knew he shouldn't have played judge. He apologized for his actions and pleaded guilty to second-degree harm.
I am so sorry. There's nothing I can do about it. But I am. I'm so ashamed of my crime. This will never end for me. I'll never forget what I've done, and no matter what, I'll always try to be a good person, whether I'm in prison or not.
He hoped his words would heal the pain, yet forgiveness seemed far away. Eric got a 15-year prison sentence, and Melanie spent 15 months locked up for helping him. This is the story of Nicholas Cruz, a young man whose actions had a deep impact on a peaceful afternoon in February 2018. In Parkland, Florida, The calmness of Marjorie Stoneman Douglas High School was shattered by Cruz, only 19 years old at the time. He caused a terrifying incident, leading to the loss of 17 innocent lives and injuring 17 others.
I am very sorry for what I did, and I have to live with it every day. And that if I were to get a second chance, I will do everything in my power to try to help others. And I am doing this for you, and I do not care if you do not believe me. And I love you, and I know you don't believe me, but I have to live with this every day. And it brings me nightmares, and I can't live with myself sometimes.
Not now the death penalty, then when? When?
After a 4-month trial in July 2022, Cruz received a life sentence without the chance of parole, expressing remorse for his actions, but unable to undo the loss of life. In Ohio, Quentin Smith stands trial for a tragic incident. 2 police officers, Eric and Anthony, met their fate responding to a domestic dispute in 2018. Smith, driven by jealousy, attacked his wife and senselessly harmed the officers. The courtroom is filled with emotion, with the grieving families expressing their pain. They believe God spared Smith's life for him to repent.
Share a little bit from the Joring family email to me. They said, "We understand Mr. Smith was shot several times. Does he wonder why he's still living? We fully believe God spared him that day to give him time to repent for this awful crime. His repentance is honest and truthful. God will forgive him and welcome him into heaven."
Fellow officers testify, sharing their helplessness.
And I couldn't do anything for him. Officer Morelli was young, and he was hit, so I moved over to him real quick.
Morelli was laying on the floor, holding himself up by his elbow. He looked up at us.
The jury couldn't decide on the penalty, so Judge Fry sentenced Smith to life in prison without parole and 26.5 additional years. Smith remains silent, his icy demeanor revealing his guilt. In a Sacramento courtroom, Luis Enrique Monroy Bracamontes faces charges for a grave incident involving 2 Northern California sheriff's deputies. Bracamontes, a Mexican citizen who entered the United States illegally multiple times, is on trial. His defense team contends that anti-immigrant sentiment, possibly influenced by President Trump, has tainted the fairness of the trial. They even attempted to plead not guilty by reason of insanity, but their efforts were in vain. During the trial, Bracamonte shocks the courtroom with his disruptive behavior and complete lack of remorse. He taunts the jury, openly stating his intentions to harm more officers, and displays disdain for the entire legal process.
Wake up soon, no more.
Be silent. Be silent.
Despite the chaos, the judge deems him competent and delivers a severe verdict based on 2 counts of severe crimes. There was a lady named Alexis Plunkett who worked as a lawyer in Las Vegas, Nevada. She defended people in court and stood by their side. However, she made a big mistake. She gave her cell phone to her boyfriend, Andrew, when he was in jail. This was against the law, and she got in trouble. The police found text messages on her phone where she talked about hurting Andrew. She said she wanted to do it because she thought he might hurt her. The judge couldn't believe it and said it was bizarre.
This is bizarre. There's nothing to say. Who in the right mind would send these texts? Like I said, I've been doing this since 1982, and I've never even heard of this, let alone seen it. I was firm. It's going forward. If you have any motions, file them now. This will not be moved.
Alexis was released on bail, but got in trouble again. She called someone a snitch online, which was not good.
Has said in these texts what she wanted to do. She wanted to have Mr. Arabello killed or beaten down severely. She mentioned who would do it.
To be held without bail pending the trial in this matter.
Finally, she made a deal with the prosecutors. She pleaded guilty to 1 charge and got probation, but she couldn't be a lawyer for a long time. In the end, Alexis Plunkett paid a heavy price for her mistakes. Meet Jeremy Shue, a 39-year-old man facing serious charges: first-degree home invasion, car theft, identity theft, and possession of a controlled substance. He arrives in a wheelchair, having suffered strokes over the years. His attorney, Walter White, is unsure about his condition.
Preliminary matters.
I would just restate my previous request, what his physical health is, but I know that he's maybe not as strong as he used to be. And so I would just ask Your Honor to consider allowing me to withdraw so that he can get an attorney that he can work with.
Tension rises as Shu decides to represent himself, but court officers step in to keep things calm. In the end, Shu wisely retains White as his attorney. White negotiates a deal, and Shu pleads no contest to most charges, resulting in a reduced sentence of 2.5 years in a county jail. Meet Calvin Lloyd Griffith, a 30-year-old from Miami-Dade County, Florida. He's in hot water, facing charges for sneaking into places he shouldn't be, taking things that don't belong to him, and generally causing trouble. Calvin is quite the expert at swiping cars and has already been warned before for similar naughty deeds. One day, he decided to step up his mischievous game by breaking into Miami Edison Senior High School. There, he pinched a Volkswagen Passat from their parking lot. But that's not where the fun ends. When Calvin had to face Judge Catherine Pooler for a bond hearing, he just couldn't keep quiet. He started blabbering until they had to silence his microphone. But that didn't stop him. Oh no, he turned to a wild dance called twerking to steal the spotlight. While folks in the courtroom giggled secretly, Judge Pooler didn't find it funny.
Be here anyway, because I smoke weed and cocaine.
Calvin's family said he had some mental troubles and wasn't taking his meds that day. His mom even came with a bag of his pills.
Your mom is here with a bag full, it looks like his medicine.
Yes.
Now, Calvin is in a real pickle, charged with various crimes like stealing and trespassing in a school zone. This isn't his first rodeo, and the judge didn't waste a second setting his bail and telling him to steer clear of Miami Edison. This is the story of Valerine Kaleohano Niddle, who faces charges for a terrible accident in Hawaii. Valerine was just an ordinary woman until May 2009 when tragedy struck. She was driving under the influence with a very high level of alcohol in her blood. She ran a red light and crashed into a car carrying 17-month-old Aaliyah Braden and her mother, Mai Velan. The collision was devastating. Aaliyah lost her life, and her mother was badly hurt. Wayne Braden, Aaliyah's father, spoke in court about his grief and held a photo of his beloved daughter.
Her scent is gone. You can't smell her anymore. She's gone.
Valerine pleaded guilty, expressing deep remorse. Then, something incredible happened. Wayne forgave her, embracing Valerine and filling the courtroom with tears.
We'll work tirelessly to keep drunk drivers off the road.
Valerine received a 10-year prison sentence, but she's now committed to preventing others from making the same mistakes. There were two young men named Antonio Nathaniel Davenport Jr., also known as Little Tony, and Derek Lamont Dixon Jr., known as Smack. They lived in Durham, North Carolina. They were part of a gang called the Notorious 8-Track Gangsters, but they weren't ordinary troublemakers. They did many bad things like shooting at rival gang members, selling drugs, and committing bank fraud. Little Tony even had a side gig as a rapper in a group called the 83 Babies, which glorified weapons and drugs. Trouble started when they were attacked by rival gang members, and they decided to retaliate. Sadly, their bullets hit an innocent 9-year-old boy named Zion Person, taking his life. The authorities had evidence against Davenport, including location data and surveillance footage. He was charged with first-degree crime, and Dixon pleaded guilty to other crimes.
Mr. Davenport, you are charged with first-degree murder of Zion Person on August 18, 2019, felony conspiracy to commit that murder.
In court, they showed no remorse and received life imprisonment. Some say they got what they deserved. This is Amber Geiger, A former Dallas police officer, she faces charges in Texas. On a September night in 2018, tragedy struck. Botham Jean, a 26-year-old man, lost his life. Geiger mistakenly entered his apartment, thinking it was her own. She didn't notice the wrong floor. Inside, she encountered Jean, unarmed and eating ice cream. In fear, she took his life. The case sparked protests due to accusations of bias. During the trial, Geiger tearfully testified, claiming a tragic mistake. Surprisingly, Botham Jean's brother forgave her publicly, even asking for a hug.
I don't even want you to go to jail. I want the best for you. Can I give her a hug, please? Please?
His father forgave, but wanted a tougher sentence.
Really need to do this. I can't be your friend. And I would like to be a friend, despite my loss. But God is good. That's why I make questions. So I appreciate what granted. Inasmuch there are consequences for every action.
We, the jury, unanimously find the defendant, Amber Geiger, guilty of murder as charged in the indictment.
In 2019, Geiger was found guilty and sentenced to 10 years in prison. Amber's actions may be due to exhaustion, but her remorse remains uncertain. In Portsmouth, Ohio, there lived a couple named Jessica and Daniel Groves. They were accused of something terrible involving their own 2-month-old baby. When the father discovered the baby in distress, he stayed silent out of fear. Their baby was found in a deep well, wrapped in plastic. Doctors found broken bones in the baby's tiny body. At first, they both denied the accusations, but then Jessica took responsibility. She confessed to hurting their son.
Tell the jury how you...
It was an accident.
Not your excuse. How did you... How did you cause these injuries?
She did it alone, hiding it from her husband, who knew nothing about it.
Jessica, did you, and you only, cause the death of your son, Dylann Groves?
Yes.
Did Daniel Groves participate in the killing of Dylann?
No.
Was Daniel Groves aware of any of the injuries that you caused that may have led to his death?
No.
Did you hide all injuries that you caused Dylann from your husband?
Yes.
How did you murder this baby? How did you cause these injuries?
I have sit here and admitted.
Answer the question, please. How did you cause these injuries?
It was an accident.
Not your excuse for what happened. How did you cause these injuries?
By dropping him.
How did you cause that first 2-inch fracture?
I don't remember. I've admitted to my guilt.
How did you?
And I have to live without my children. I'm done talking to you.
You are talking to me because you're sitting on the witness stand. Tell them how you caused that injury.
My client, Jessica Groves, was and still is a drug addict. There is no doubt about that fact. She, and she alone, caused the injuries to Dylann Groves, which led to his death. She murdered Dylann Groves.
The court found Jessica guilty and sentenced her to life in prison. Daniel was found guilty too, receiving 47 years behind bars. Justice was served. Meet Michael Madison, a man with a dark secret. He's facing serious charges in Ohio, not for what we usually hear about, but for something truly horrifying. He did unspeakable things to 3 women. He treated them terribly, wrapping them up in garbage bags and leaving them behind. Michael Madison, a convicted criminal, was behind the tragic demise of 3 women in East Cleveland, Ohio. Born in 1977, he had a troubled upbringing. In 2013, the police made a gruesome discovery near his apartment. The victims were identified, but the cause of their demise remained a mystery. Madison went to trial, and things got even stranger.
You stripped them from the waist down. You folded them in half, binding them so that their feet were up by their ears. You wrapped them in multiple layers of trash bags, and you discarded them.
While a grieving father confronted him, Madison smirked, leading to courtroom chaos. He was was found guilty, and the jury recommended the harshest punishment. In 2016, he was sentenced. In Detroit, there's a mom named Charlicia Pelt. She was in a big car crash. Her little boy, just 3 years old, got hurt really bad and didn't make it. Now, they're in court to figure out what happens next. Turns out, Charlicia was not in good shape when she drove that day. She didn't stop at a red light and crashed into another car. It was really fast, like 70, 80 miles an hour. But the shock isn't just about the crash. It's about what happened in court.
He was behind me, I look in my rear view, and boom, she must have been going at least 70, 80 miles per hour.
August 9th, I got a call from a stranger telling me that my was in an accident. Same time, the hospital called me and told me my son was fighting for his life. I didn't understand what was going on. I don't know what else to say to this point. I don't understand none of this. Miss Pelt know what my son meant to me.
Charlicia said sorry, but she didn't fully admit she had done something wrong.
I'm sorry. I'm so sorry. I promise I didn't mean it. Y'all know I love my baby so much. I'm being put out there like I'm just a neglective parent, and I know it was wrong, but I did everything right by my kids. Tried my hardest if I didn't. But I apologize to everybody it hurt. Michael's family on his dad's side, my family, and anybody that loved Michael.
The judge thought for a while and decided to give her 3 to 15 years in prison. In the case of Grace Coleman, who is facing multiple charges, including second degree, driving under the influence, causing injury, driving with too much alcohol in her system, and failing to stop at a hit and run involving injury and harm in Newport Beach, California. Coleman is in court for causing harm to a couple, 27-year-old Henry Eduardo Saldana Mejia and his 28-year-old wife, Gabriela Andrade, in a drunk driving collision. Reports say Coleman's alcohol level was too high when she crashed into the family's car. 3 little girls in her car got hurt, breaking their legs and arms.
December 9th, 2020, I received a phone call to give me the saddest news. It was the worst thing that I could have heard, a pain that I will never be able to overcome.
My name is Emma Sofia. I write this letter because I miss my mom. My name is Elena. I miss my mom and my dad. I feel sad when the accident happened.
Those beautiful girls will never have their parents from the major moments of their lives. Who is going to walk them down the aisle if they ever get married? Who is going to dance with them at their quinceañera?
I sense strongly that they would want you to continue to live your life with joy, to appreciate every day.
The judge sentenced Coleman to 21 years to life in prison. In San Antonio, Texas, there was a man named Mark Anthony Gonzalez. He committed a terrible act. He harmed a dedicated policeman named Sergeant Kenneth Van, who had spent 24 years protecting the community. Sergeant Van was simply doing his duty, responding to a call for help when a man drove up and fired many bullets at him. It was a horrifying moment that left everyone shocked. People immediately called for help, and when the police arrived, they found the bad man at his home. He possessed a dangerous weapon capable of firing many shots. He had tried to hide it, but the police were thorough in their search. They also discovered evidence on his phone that placed him near the scene of the crime.
The bullets crashed through the other side of Sergeant Van's patrol vehicle. It rips the entire upper torso of him with a bulletproof vest providing no protection whatsoever.
During the trial, it was argued that the man wasn't mentally ill, but that he had been under the influence of alcohol and drugs when he committed the terrible act.
Suffering from a brain lapse, a lapse of consciousness.
When he hit that bottom step, he slipped and he fell, and he knocked himself out. This is a well-documented neuropsychiatric phenomenon.
Certainly this concussion would not have
affected his ability to understand the nature of his actions at the time of the offense.
He caused great harm to Sergeant Van, and his family was left devastated.
I will never have any more alone time with my husband, and my time now is truly alone in every sense of the word.
Ultimately, the authorities decided that the bad man should face severe consequences for his actions. Some believed it was the right thing to do, while others agreed that he should receive the punishment he deserved. In the curious case of Keeson Wilkins, the story unfolds in an Ohio courtroom. Wilkins, facing charges of assault and weapons violations from a 2004 incident, chooses to represent himself. On day 1, his antics led to courtroom clearances by the judge. Day 2 starts on the wrong foot as the judge questions Wilkins about witnesses, to which he replies with none. Seeking more time to prepare his defense, the judge reminds him of ample time given. The hearing proceeds with a police officer on the stand.
Mr. Wilkins, do you have any witnesses here present today?
No, Your Honor.
You've had months to research this matter. This is why I suggested to you that you have counsel.
During cross-examination, a surprising turn occurs. Wilkins dramatically falls to the ground, but his theatrics fail to sway the judge.
Your Honor, excuse me for a second.
We're gonna take a breath. Take a breath.
His disruptive behavior led to a 42-year prison sentence. Hold on to our final clip, which is the most scariest and most creepiest one. And if you like what you saw, make sure you subscribe and hit the notification bell so you never miss out on our creepiest videos. In a quiet town, Tanner drove recklessly, going incredibly fast at 97 miles per hour in a 30-mile-per-hour zone. He crashed into the back of a Dodge Dakota on Midway Road, setting off a terrible series of events. His car collided with the other car and burst into flames. Dashner's vehicle plowed through the road, knocking another car off the road before slamming into the victim's car at full speed. Videos from bystanders captured the aftermath. Tragically, 5 lives were lost, including the Dodge's driver, Caden Tillett, and passengers Alexis Cheney, Anthony Victor, Anthony Martin, and Darian Douglas. Amidst the tragedy, a brave bystander rescued 14-year-old Ariana Stanberry from the burning wreckage, displaying true heroism. At the time of the crash, Dashner's blood alcohol content was measured at a staggering 0.274%, which is over 3 times the legal limit. He faced 5 counts of DUI manslaughter. During the trial, family members of the victims sought a life sentence, but the judge's ruling aligned with the prosecution's request.
Closure. We're just ready to move on, put this behind us. He'll never be forgotten, so we just have to be strong, and we've been through a great deal, all of us, and so we're just ready to put this past us.
The courtroom overflowed with emotions as grieving relatives shared their heart-wrenching stories in search of closure and justice. To make matters worse, Dashner's reaction to his sentence was dramatic. His defense claimed he had autism spectrum disorder and brain issues, but the evidence contradicted this, especially since he had posted a selfie with the word sloshed.
To the family of Anthony Victor, I am sorry. To the family of Anthony Martin, I am sorry. To the family of Darian Douglas, I am sorry. To the family of Caden Tillett, I am sorry. To the family of Alexis Cheney, I am sorry. To Ariana Stanberry, I am sorry.
Judge Mackinson sentenced Dashner to serve 14.5 years for each of the 5 DUI manslaughter charges, with credit for nearly 1,300 days already served. These sentences will run consecutively, resulting in a total of 72.5 years behind bars. Thank you so much for watching. Don't forget to subscribe and hit the notification bell so you can stay updated with our latest videos.